Jo, herzlich willkommen zur 12. Ausgabe von Plattenfroster. Wir starten mit 3 Minuten Verspätung, aber das ist, glaube ich, nicht so schlimm.
Bei der S-Bahn ja auch nicht so schlimm.
Nee, bei der Deutschen Bahn erst recht nicht.
Ja.
Aber nun gut, das ist nicht unser Thema heute.
Nee, nicht.
Nee.
Was ist denn unser Felix, hallo.
Hi Stefan. Ich finde es großartig, dass du von den quasi Toten wieder auferstanden bist und ich hätte nicht damit gerechnet, dass ich das Vergnügen habe, heute neben dir zu stehen.
Ja, kein Corona, aber es gibt noch andere Scheiße. Pass auf.
Das ist wohl richtig. Nein, nichtsdestotrotz, das soll auch nicht Thema sein. Thema wird sein, ey, was schmeißt du hier eigentlich für Müll durch die Gegend?
Weiß nicht.
Ja? Okay. Thema wird sein, wir haben spannende Gäste. Wir haben Coost, der schon eine ganze Weile nicht mehr hier an Bord ist, aber eine ganze Weile ganz lange hier permanent an Bord war und ganz viel gemacht hat. Mitte der 90er bis Anfang der 2000er. Ist aber nach wie vor regelmäßig auch hier und dem Schiff sehr eng verbunden. Der wird so ein bisschen mit Stefan im Radar plaudern. Ja. Genau. Dann haben wir Maria und Neda da. Ja. Da gibt es was für die Augen und für die Ohren. Und auch ein Gespräch. Und ansonsten haben wir, ist auch Special Guest heute das Medienarchiv. Da wird auch eine ganze Menge.
Genau, weil der Punkt ist, eigentlich hätten wir auch noch Raphael Vanoli angekündigt. So. Ist auch war schon öfters hier, ist Musiker, lebt in Amsterdam. Hätte heute hier gespielt, Solo-Gitarrist, ziemlich geile Scheiße auch, aber Reisebedingungen, Corona, das wurde alles immer wilder. Da könnte man jetzt echt viel drüber sprechen und erzählen. Ich hatte erst gestern noch mit einem anderen Booker mal ein bisschen geschrieben, ob es überhaupt Sinn macht, noch was zu buchen, was nicht in der eigenen Stadt ist, weil man einfach nicht weiß, ob die Leute kommen können. Also Corona-Tests wurden teurer, die Freiwilligen braucht man aber einen, der muss 48 Stunden gültig sein, kostet dann 150 € und so weiter. Schlussendlich haben wir uns gemeinsam entschieden, wir verschieben das auf 2021 und deswegen Media Archive heute.
Es gibt halt immer wieder irgendwas, was einem den Strich durch die Rechnung macht. So.
Improvise und Experiment.
Genau.
Ja.
Also, ich glaube, wir starten tatsächlich aber auch gleich durch mit Media Archive und zwar Raphael Vanolis Band.
Genau, oder? Knallpott von 2015 in Hamburg. Schön mal eine Schelle auf die Ohren für den Anfang. Viel Spaß.
Ja, viel Spaß.
Ja, hallo. Ja, das war gerade Knallpott, der erste Kick aus dem Archiv heute. Und jetzt sind wir auch schon hier. Neda, schön, dass du da bist. Maria, hallo. Wir haben ja vor ein paar Wochen zusammen schon mal ein bisschen Zeit verbracht, sind im Maschinenraum rumgestiegen, da wird man nachher mal reinschauen, so mal ein bisschen zu eurer Person. Maria, du bist bildende Künstlerin.
Genau, ich habe an der Kunstakademie in München studiert und bin der visuelle Part unseres, ich sag mal, Familienunternehmens, The Sound and Icon Machine.
Okay. Du bist der visuelle Part und du bist...
Ich bin Neda, die Schwester, und bin der Part der Musik und der akustischen Komposition und Vertonung sozusagen.
Okay,
also,
ja. Du bist ja schon lange, also gerade auch hier in Hamburg, sehr bekannt und schon lange unterwegs als DJ, als Composerin.
Also ich bin Anfang der 90er, muss ich schon sagen, eine Weile hier nach Hamburg gezogen und sozusagen habe hier angefangen, Platten aufzulegen und später auch Musik zu komponieren, und das mache ich seitdem durchgängig und eben auch mit meiner Schwester Maria zusammen seit fast schon 20 Jahren, kann man sagen.
Okay, ja. Und das ist dann eben das Sound and the Machine.
The Sound and Icon Machine.
The Sound and Icon Machine.
Also genau, Bild und Ton sozusagen.
Genau.
Ja. Wie kann man sich das vorstellen? Wie arbeitet ihr da zusammen? Ich meine, du wohnst in München, du wohnst in Hamburg. Klar, ihr seid verwandt, verschwistert. Ihr seht euch bestimmt mal öfter oder so, oder?
Ja, im digitalen Zeitalter ist das ja alles relativ einfach geworden. Wir entwickeln die Ideen zusammen im engen, wie soll ich sagen, auch natürlich telefonischen Austausch und fangen einfach das Arbeiten an. Ja. Ich fange das Animieren an, das Zeichnen, Animieren, alles am Computer digital, also nicht am Blatt Papier, auf dem Blatt Papier. Und dann machen wir so eine Art Ping-Pong. Neda bekommt es, sagt, oh, da hätte ich aber eine Idee, wie wir das vertonen könnten. Und so machen wir einfach eine Zeit lang hin und her, bis wir uns dann angenähert haben an dem, was wir uns vorstellen. Also ist es einfach so eine gute Zusammenarbeit, sage ich jetzt mal.
Okay, ja. Ich würde auch mal sagen, so bevor das dann auch für Leute, ich meine, ihr habt schon mehrere Ausstellungen gemacht oder auch zusammen Installationen wo aufgeführt. Zu dem Stück, was wir dann gleich sehen, da ist ja noch die Story, da wäre die Premiere im März gewesen. Wie ist das oder wie war das?
Ja, das war angedacht. Wir hatten eine Einladung in München in einer Galerie und das wurde dann kurzfristig abgesagt und ich hatte komplett gerade eine ganz neue Vertonung dafür gemacht und da waren wir natürlich sehr traurig, dass das abgesagt wurde und sozusagen ist das heute die echte Premiere, die wir hatten gar nicht mehr damit gerechnet, dass wir dieses Jahr das überhaupt irgendwo zeigen können. Freuen uns natürlich sehr, dass wir das hier machen durften bei euch.
Danke, danke. Und auch an die Media Crew, special thanks.
Ja, klar. Und ja gut, das Stück heißt, mag es jemand von euch selber ankündigen und dann würde ich sagen, schauen wir direkt mal rein.
Das Stück heißt Scratchi ja, eine Linie zeichnet sich selbst, sage ich jetzt mal im weitesten Sinne und diesmal jetzt im Engine Room der MS Stubnitz.
Alles klar, dann mal los, ne? Ja, das war Scratchi von Neda und Maria. Ja, das war jetzt quasi sowas, was man eine Uraufführung nennt. Allerdings mit einer recht eigentlich abstrakten Nummer. Ich denke mal, ihr habt eure Installation bisher meistens mit Live-Publikum, also quasi, wie sagt man denn, vielleicht 4D oder sowas gemacht, also so, dass die Installation ist und die Leute und der Raum und alles. Das war jetzt ja ist eine abstraktere Nummer. Im Maschinenraum waren nur ihr beiden und wir als Media Crew und haben das dann dort realisiert. Wie ist das Arbeiten für euch im Vergleich, also jetzt zu dem Stück, was jetzt hier im Maschinenraum gemacht wurde, mit zu dem, wie ihr vielleicht sonst arbeitet oder so?
Ja, normalerweise orientieren wir uns an den Räumen und uns ist es sehr, sehr wichtig, dass eben der Raum zur Geltung kommt durch unser Licht und unseren Ton, sodass einfach der Raum auch zu leben anfängt, zu vibrieren anfängt und es nicht eine Filminstallation ist, sage ich jetzt mal im weitesten Sinne, sondern eine Rauminstallation, also richtig vielleicht Bildhauerei schon.
Ja.
Ja, also der Raum ist quasi die Arbeit. Also sozusagen normalerweise, in Anführungszeichen, wird die Architektur, bekommt ein neues Kleid mit unseren AV-Installationen und der Betrachter geht rein und hat auch Eindrücke, die er damit nach Hause nimmt. Und je länger dass er sich in diesem Raum oder sie sich in dem Raum aufhält, also unsere Arbeiten funktionieren eigentlich als Loops. Also dieser Film ist jetzt einmal von Anfang bis Ende, was auch sehr unnatürlich für unsere Arbeitsweise ist. Das würde dann sonst endlos laufen und man hat auch als Betrachter und bei Betrachterin eine ganz andere Wahrnehmung, wenn man 1,5 Stunden zum Beispiel dann in diesem Raum sich aufhält.
Also du entdeckst halt komplett andere Details, wenn du dich lange da aufhältst und dich einlässt auf die Installation, dann kommst du richtig in so einen Flow, in einen Groove, dass du eigentlich auch noch länger drin bleiben willst. Ja. Und das ist eigentlich das, was wir natürlich erreichen wollen, dass die Besucher, die Hörer lange drin bleiben und sich beschäftigen einfach mit dem Raum, mit den Klängen, mit ihrer eigenen Wahrnehmung.
Ja, im besten Fall ist es halt wirklich so, dass man kann sich bewegen, man ist drin und durch die repetitiven Weisen sind ja schon auch was. Das ist also die Musik oder auch gerade die Musik, die du dazu machst, arbeitet ja auch sehr repetitiv, loophaft so. Haben wir ja gerade, während es gelaufen ist, so scherzhaft gesagt, ist ein bisschen 90s-Sound irgendwie so auch. Auch da nochmal ein kleiner Hinweis irgendwie, also speziell, also nicht nur speziell diese Sendung, aber irgendwie gute Boxen zu Hause oder zumindest mal Kopfhörer oder so, sind auf jeden Fall eine feine Sache, weil das Laptop-Boxen kracht das ja nur so ein bisschen so vor sich hin. Die Repetition, also malst du die zuerst und du machst den Sound dann drauf, läuft das parallel oder ist das irgendwie, morpht sich das so zusammen oder?
Es ist sehr unterschiedlich, also meistens gibt es eine Ursprungsidee, wo wir auch so inhaltlich einfach erstmal überlegen, auf was haben wir gerade Lust, was interessiert uns und darüber entwickelt sich was und also es ist oft, dass Maria eher vorschießt, sage ich mal. Und dann ändert sich das aber auch oft, dass ich dann weitermache und sie zeichnet dann. Also man kann jetzt gar nicht eine Regel aufstellen, mit der eine fängt an. Also es ist sozusagen sehr prozesshaft, auch je nachdem, welches Projekt es ist.
Zum Beispiel war das so letztes Jahr im Poolhaus Blankenese, wo wir direkt in den Pool projiziert haben und sie hatten auch eine Surround-Anlage. Worüber sich die Neda natürlich sehr gefreut hat. Da haben wir sozusagen auf den Raum hingearbeitet. Ich habe eine Wasseroberfläche gezeichnet, die sich bewegt. Und Neda hat einen Surround-Sound dazu gemacht. Also die Räume geben uns auch oft vor, was wir mit ihnen machen können oder wollen.
Ja. Habt ihr, also so die Räume, die ihr bisher bespielt habt, sind das, klar, die sind unterschiedlich groß, aber sind das auch richtig große mit Gängen und allem Möglichen? Also macht ihr auch so Mega-Installationen dann so oder sind das schon eher so auf dem Punkt irgendwo welche?
Ja, also wir hatten einmal das Glück, dass wir bei dem Ökumenischen Kirchentag in München mehr oder weniger über einen Wettbewerb 2 Kirchen bespielen durften.
Ja.
Da kommt man natürlich auch nicht so schnell ran. Das war natürlich ein echt besonderes Erlebnis. Und man hat dann danach auch richtig Lust, weiter so groß zu arbeiten, muss ich wirklich sagen. Oder so ging es uns beiden, oder Maria?
Ja, also Kirchenraum ist natürlich eine Sensation. Also das war natürlich eine katholische und eine evangelische Kirche, klar, ökumenischer Kirchentag, logischerweise. Ja. Und was uns auch sehr wichtig ist, das haben wir in den Kirchen wahnsinnig gut hinbekommen, man sieht keine Technik. Du gehst in den Raum rein und hast einfach nur Licht und Ton. Ja. Du siehst gar nichts. Und das ist natürlich nochmal eine komplett andere Situation für die Besucher, klar. Ja. Weil die nicht entdecken können, wie das funktionieren kann. Zum Beispiel in den Kirchen haben wir auf einen Ballon projiziert, eine Projektion, eine rechteckige auf einen runden Ballon. Die Projektion war natürlich rund, klar, aber wie geht das? Ja. So. Also das sind wahnsinnig spannende Projekte, die sehr viel Spaß machen.
Ja. Wie ist das bei dir, Neda? Du hast, also ich sage jetzt mal so früher in Anführungszeichen, irgendwie warst du hauptsächlich soundmäßig unterwegs, du machst immer noch das Sound, aber jetzt gepaart eben mit dieser ganzen Visualisierungsgeschichte. War dir dann irgendwann auflegen gehen und selber zu composen und ab und zu wo zu spielen dann oder auch mit Bands zu spielen? Da musste es dann weitergehen irgendwie so? War das dann ein Wunsch, dass da sich noch was entwickelt oder?
Also ich habe ja auch bildende Kunst studiert, also Bildhauerei, und tatsächlich finde ich, dass meine Bildhauerei mit dem Sound, also mit der Dimension weitergeführt wurde, also diese ursprüngliche, die ich als sehr junge Frau, also als Steinbildhauerin gelernt habe mal, also sozusagen von 19 bis mit 19 Jahren gelernt, ein paar Jahre. Ja. Also das Schälen aus einem Stein, heute haben wir auch schon drüber gewitzelt, ist eigentlich ähnlich wie unsere Räume schälen jetzt. Ja. Nur wir sind ein Duo und die Mittel sind vollkommen andere oder die Medien, die wir benutzen. Aber es ist eigentlich jetzt, wenn ich meinen eigenen roten Faden anschaue, nicht so viel anders als der Start, also mit Kunst und Musik.
Ja. Ja. Wie geht es für euch jetzt? Gut, keiner weiß, wie es weitergeht, aber wie seht ihr euch? Seid ihr so ein bisschen auf Lauerstellung und wartet halt, bis die Situation sich ein bisschen klärt? Bereitet ihr weiter Arbeiten vor? Sitzt ihr in der Depression, macht gar nichts mehr? Oder wie ist das jetzt mit der Kunst so und mit der Kultur, die man gerade betreibt?
Also wir sind noch nicht in die Depression gefallen. Wir haben die Corona-Zeit genutzt, wie viele andere natürlich auch, in die Social-Media-Kanäle zu gehen. Wir haben 2 kurze Film-Snippets gepostet. Der eine thematisch zu Corona, der hieß 30 Seconds, also 30 Sekunden. Der war eine Anleitung, beziehungsweise eine Begleitung, keine Anleitung, eine audiovisuelle Begleitung zum Händewaschen, 30 Sekunden Händewaschen. Und das war ganz lustig, da haben wir sehr viel Feedback bekommen, weil man sollte einfach nur das Handy einschalten und der Film ist natürlich 30 Sekunden lang und eben die Hände waschen. Ja. Das war der eine und der andere.
Das andere ist, dass wir irgendwie die Idee hatten, dass wir vielleicht etwas zu diesen unglaublichen Aussagen von Donald Trump machen und uns was suchen, was uns sozusagen inspiriert hat, das umzulenken, künstlerisch, seinen schönen Ausspruch I know words.
I have the best words.
Genau. Und daraus haben wir eigentlich auch klein so einen 38 Sekunden gemacht als Loop. Den kann man auch auf Instagram anschauen. Ja.
Okay, da seid ihr auch unterwegs als Duo mit eurem Profil. Und genau. Steht sonst irgendwas an bei euch noch in nächster Zeit? Oder ist da gerade halt einfach ein bisschen Schicht im Schacht, weil nicht viel planbar ist oder so?
Also ich hoffe, dass die Ausstellungen, die dieses Jahr abgesagt worden sind, vielleicht nächstes Jahr stattfinden. Also das wäre schön. Und vielleicht machen wir auch nochmal ein Snippet auf Instagram. Ja. Das ist geplant.
Ich hätte noch eine Frage für euch. Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr die beide gemeinsam beantwortet oder jede für sich selbst oder sowas. Der überhaupt wir arbeiten ja alle so im kulturellen Sektor als Musikschaffende, Kulturschaffende, Kunstschaffende und so weiter. Warum machst du das? Also warum machen wir Kunst oder Kultur oder was denkst du, was ist dabei so wichtig, dass das gemacht wird?
Das ist ja fast eine Fangfrage. Also ich würde sagen, ich für mich kann nur sagen, ich habe keine andere Wahl, weil ich muss das machen. Also es muss weitergehen und auch für mein eigenes Lebensbalance und also ich kann mir ein Leben ohne Musik und eben unsere Installation und im weitesten Sinn gar nicht vorstellen. Ja. Also
wir können ja auch schlecht umlernen, also nachdem wir so lange schon so arbeiten und ja, einigermaßen Erfolg haben, sage ich jetzt mal, für unsere Verhältnisse, wie schaltet man dann um auf etwas anderes? Das ist ganz, ganz schwierig. Aber klar, jetzt ist es für alle Künstler noch mal schwieriger geworden, als es war, gehört, gesehen und so weiter zu werden, weil es natürlich keine Räume gibt und viele sich natürlich in die Social Media logischerweise flüchten, um überhaupt präsent zu sein, ja. Um nicht ganz zu verschwinden.
Ja, ja, ich hoffe, also ich persönlich hoffe auch, da gibt es mal irgendwann so irgendwie eine Trendwende, dass man da einfach wieder rausgeht, weil das echte Leben draußen irgendwie so, da wo man es wirklich tun kann. Ich denke, wir werden es da nachher auch noch ein bisschen so davon haben, so, da hat sich viel geändert, so wenn man so die letzten 10, 15, 20 Jahre zurückschaut, wie das Ganze so überhaupt funktioniert. Es gibt viele neue Wege. Was ich sagen würde noch, ist, dass vielleicht, keine Ahnung, wenn nächstes Jahr das ein bisschen lockerer läuft, vielleicht kann man da noch eine andere Installation mal machen und ansonsten auch vielleicht insgesamt, wo Räume sind, auch wenn Leute zuschauen oder das mitbekommen, irgendwie wo Räume sind, wo Leute, die Kunst machen, sich austoben können. Das ist immer eine gute Gelegenheit, die mal zu öffnen und ein bisschen Zeit und ein bisschen Raum zu geben, so, dass sowas stattfinden kann.
Also das wäre auf jeden Fall auch ein großes Appell, also mit diese Räume zur Verfügung zu stellen überhaupt, auch in diesen Zeiten, die jetzt herrschen. Also
noch mehr, es tun ja schon einige Leute ihre Räume zur Verfügung stellen, aber einfach noch mehr, damit einfach wir gesehen und gehört werden können. Ja. Und nicht ganz, eben wie schon gesagt, ganz verschwinden.
Genau. Ich würde an der Stelle sagen, Neda, Maria, vielen Dank, dass ihr heute da wart, vor ein paar Wochen da wart, dass wir zusammen so die Aufführung von Scratchi so machen konnten. Das Ganze wird es im Netz noch später geben und wer weiß, vielleicht auch mal irgendwann irgendwo in 4D, wo man durchlaufen kann und das Ganze mit mehr Wiederholung laufen lassen kann. Als Überleitung würde ich jetzt noch sagen, oder habt ihr noch?
Vielen Dank für die Einladung.
Vielen Dank für die Einladung.
Spendet für die Stubnitz.
Kling, kling. Genau. Bei uns wird auch gebastelt und so. Wir schauen jetzt gleich mal wieder bei Rust Never Sleeps vorbei. Es gibt eine neue Folge. Easy, die hier gerade auch Kamera macht, schweißt auch und flext auch. Und wir gucken mal zu, wie eine der vielen, vielen Türen, die wir hier an Bord haben, die ganz schön abgeranzt waren über die letzten Jahre, wieder schön fresh gemacht werden, dass die wieder nice und geschmeidig laufen, gut aussehen und nicht so schnell abkacken mehr. Deswegen viel Spaß mit Rust Never Sleeps.
It's the story of my life. I'm gonna tell you all about it. Now I've had a drink or two, or three, or four, or more. There's no escape for you. Oh. Bisschen Licht hier. Bisschen Licht hier. Thank you. A 10-year-old trout tickler, Forellenkitzler, from the Yorkshire town of Barnoldswick in England, caught the nickname Coost as a result of a random exchange with two unlooking schoolboys in a vague and drunken reference to the French underwater explorer and international TV celebrity of the time, Jacques Cousteau. Coost. Coost. This somewhat tenuous aquatic connection became somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy when, 23 years later, Coost, by this time also known as Coost Lardy Cake, and that's another story, pulled up anchor from North London, squatting and free party universe, and headed eastwards to Rostock, Germany on the Baltic Sea, and the home port of motor ship Stubnitz. Together with other London-based musicians and artists, including live electronic dub act LS Diesel and the mechanized scrap steel sculptures of Lyle Doghead from the Mutoid Waste Company, events were organized, people came. Under the mentorship of project co-founder Urs Blaser, also known as Blow, this new unorthodox crew were inspired by this unique creative space, learning new skills necessary to maintain a seaworthy ship. The merging of these ex-London-based vagabonds together with Russian stowaways from the St. Petersburg tour, which had just happened in '94. The ship always seems to catch at least one person in every port, by the way. In combination with our newfound local day-day airborne friends, made for an unusual and productive crew, and events such as Cockroach Club were born, which reflected this new exotic mix, blurring geographic and political boundaries in a city which was at the time heavily stigmatized by previous mob attacks against migrants in the Lichtenberg district of Rostock in '92. After a year or so, the London posse moved on, some towards Italy to create the mechanized sculpture park Mutonia, while others returned to the UK. Coost remained on board, sharing Blow's vision to move the ship again, together with Russian autodidact Dodgy Dennis and local support from the Orange Groover, Bastard Peter, Manakino, Gamla, Kundenlal, Wojciech, Yats, Pinax, Crystal Fuchs, Smoking Tuna Brigade, Heizhaus, Nerfbert, Dave Langer, and many, many, many more. The emphasis moved from survive-style parties and refocused on presenting and documenting live cultural activities, with Coost learning the ropes as cameraman, video editor, and camera breaker, which I just broke the camera half an hour ago, video editor and booker, eventually to become the ship's event coordinator, all the while improving his music knowledge and discovering strange new genres such as noise, following a show by the legendary Japanese musician Merzbau, from which there was no turning back. The initial concept and funding for the project had attracted some cutting-edge European artists, technicians, designers, as well as enabling some basic structural changes to the ship, which resulted in the creation of the Kunstraumschiff and a first tour to St. Petersburg, Malmö, and Hamburg in '94. When the tour was over, the money was out, with only Blow remaining from the original project instigators. A small idealistic crew, adapted and improvised, often under severe conditions. In winter, the ship could be icy cold, inefficient, ineffective heaters, producing massive electricity bills, still cold. Without any more state cultural support, extra income was generated through providing emergency accommodation for ex-prisoners and the socially disadvantaged, sparking occasional wild and surreal interactions between them and the anarchist artists. The project regained momentum and the cultural output increased, which attracted more international attention and resulted in an invitation to the Stockholm Culture Capital 1988 activities. At last, the MS Stubnitz was back on the map, fulfilling its cultural transport mission. The program, was expertly curated by Stockholm hosts The Nursery, with an intensely packed program of high-level experimental and avant-garde acts such as Muslim Goes, The Tiger Lilies, and Lydia Lunch. However, some of the lobby groups held a very different view about these activities, and after a massively exaggerated police raid, which resulted in the confiscation of completely innocent cooking herbs and a few old miserable crumbs of hashish, the ship was forbidden to invite audiences inside the ship, as well as forbidding alcohol sales, which was the financial livelihood of the operation. Not to be outdone, the crew printed T-shirts MS Stubnitz, full of narcotics, as a parody of the local newspaper headline, and as ever, Blow found creative loopholes to navigate through the situation to deliver our cultural offerings. Shows went ahead while audiences watched remotely on TV monitors from the ship's deck, with Stockholm's so-called rave police angrily watching on, unaware that their unit would be disbanded shortly after the Culture Capital activities, in recognition that they were quite ridiculous. Subsequent tours in the Baltic and North Sea region, including a memorable tour to Newcastle in the UK, featuring acts such as Pansonic, Outakera, Soviet France, Wolf Eyes, A Hawk and a Hacksaw, and Battles, ensured the Stubnitz legendary status. Circa 2001, Coost jumped ship to seek his luck in Berlin, where he submerged in the thriving squat and subcultural scenes in Mitte and Friedrichshain, organizing events, playing in bands, DJing. Here he jumped in with the screen print collective then known as Fleischerei, which evolved into Czentrifuga. Last page. Still active today, Czentrifuga activities include screen printing, graphics, trick film animation, music production and performance, as well as recycling plastic trash to create costumes, accessoires, and stage sets. The project is part of the association Unterdruck Kultur von der Straße e.V., which exists since '92 and is dedicating to helping homeless as well as other socially marginalized people. During this time in his role as certified able-bodied seaman, Coost would return to the ship for more salty sea dog adventures to help with the ship's crew on voyages to places such as Rotterdam, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Stettin, Bremen, as well as an epic and almost surreal, definitely surreal, tour to East London, which coincided with the 2012 Olympic Games. Currently, Coost is part of the Berlin container village Disco Babel and the project Organ, together with long-standing musical partner Annika Hansen, also known as Miss Vergnügen, Chemo acoustic artist Bastian Maris, and a small team of friends. Here they make early Monday evening events with live organ music and the occasional controlled sonic explosion. Together with other players from this cultural playground, a soap opera, Mess, is currently being filmed and produced with Coost in the acting role as a rogue military special forces agent. How about that? Massive thanks and respect to Blow and hundreds of people who, over the years, have helped to maintain the Stubnitz. The voyage continues. Hey.
Hey, what are you doing here? Telling stories again?
Out of my mind. I can't get over the fact that I broke the camera just 20 minutes before we started, so I'm feeling bad about that.
I saw it. It just was like a performance.
It was, but it wasn't funny, really.
No, yeah. But yeah.
Well, maybe we laugh about it next year or something.
Yeah.
Nobody's laughing now.
No, nobody's laughing. But nice that you're here. Love it. Nice story, by the way. Is it all true?
Some of it.
Yeah.
Nothing is true and everything is permitted.
Yeah.
I read it somewhere. I don't know.
Whoa, it sounds quite clever. Yeah. So it's not from you?
Definitely not.
Okay, cool. So why you're doing this, doing culture, what drives you? Still sitting here, came in the 90s.
I think you just get stuck in it and then it's like, oh my God, I can't do anything else. I mean, I know in the UK now they're telling all the artists, I don't see myself as an artist, but creative people, they should retrain. So I'm thinking about retraining at the moment. Yeah.
What's your idea about, what do you want to do?
I don't know. What do you think I could do? You know me a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I heard you're a farmer right now, like a little farmer.
Farming, yeah. Well, I'm helping on a couple of farm projects outside of Berlin.
Yeah.
Organic food and collectively organized. I help a little bit.
Yeah. So it's quite going with the hands in the ground, touching the earth, the soil. It's healthy.
Yeah.
It's good for mental.
It's a good antidote for the city and the madness and the... Yeah,
I know. Or I can imagine, I live in a city, but I go out from time to time. So Yeah, you were aboard and you went in a couple of cities with a ship, and I want to ask you, how is it going with a ship and doing the cultural transport? Like you went to Newcastle, London, Stockholm, you came to Rostock, you went to Stettin, you were in Bremen, always on ship, going somewhere and starting doing program. How is it? How can I imagine? How can we imagine?
Yeah, I mean, it's a common myth that some people think, oh, you make events as you are traveling, but actually, because you need so much crew, so many regulations involved, actually, you go to the port, you moor at the port, and then you make the events. I mean, we do the events for the Hafentag, going down the river for the birthday, but these are very small events, yeah.
But how did it work out? I think like it was in the late 90s or mid 90s, and going to the early 2000s, making booking program, coordinating bands, and making the advertisement in the cities. It's just a shithole of work for a lot of people to announce that you're here and that people come to the ship. How did you manage that with the crew, or?
Yeah, this was the old school days of flyers and going around the bars and going to other events and giving out flyers, and which is kind of almost obsolete now, or maybe it comes back. I think some people like to feel especially if it's with this screen printing, that you can, when you touch and you look at the picture, the flyer, it's looking different to all this glossy trash you see everywhere. Yeah. And some people they recognize that and find that interesting, and that's obviously helping to sell the show.
Yeah, yeah, but nevertheless, it's like you go to a port, but you have to plan the program in advance, and then you can't just go there and be in the port. And next week the first concert is starting. You have to promote it somehow. Have you had teams in front doing some advertisement, or?
Indeed. I mean, as we talked about as I talked about the Stockholm, was it boring? Was that going on too long, or was it okay?
No.
Okay, good.
It's just like a nice story.
Okay, thank you.
And if most of it is true, that's really cool.
Okay. When we were in Stockholm, we were invited by an organization who are connected with Filkingen, which is the avant-garde music where Stockhausen and all these cats were doing their thing. Okay. And so quite high level. And they had a really great program already laid on for us. And then from our side here, when we were in Rostock at that point, then we would, if we had any content or ideas, we would just pass them on to the organization. And if we felt it fit, then we would send it on. And as we were kind of thinking on the same way anyway, they would normally accept this. And this is a kind of a classic situation whereby, like in Copenhagen, you're invited by the jazz festival there, or there's usually a group of booking people who already have the program more or less fixed.
Yeah. You told we talked for sure before we are sitting here and talking just only trash. There was like in Newcastle, it was quite heavy with the media agreements, or the booking was quite restricted for something.
I don't remember. I know some of these experimental musicians and stuff. They're quite sort of shy, or what's the word? Untrusting of when you say, can we make a video? Can we make an audio recording? Yeah. And you need a lot of diplomacy and have to show people and treat them in a certain way to bring them around. Some people just point blank, I think, like Pansonic never wanted any recording of anything, which is a shame because they really rocked the ship. It was, of course, it's avant-garde and experimental, but when they play a live set, it's really brutal and primitive and great music. And of course, one guy's died now, so I guess there's some audio recordings which are around which can't be touched. Yeah. Because of copyright and everything, but maybe future generations in 1,000 years will discover them.
If there, let's skip that point. If there is a future, in anyway, there's still one. I think it's these are bands. It's yours.
I had something to do with in some vague connection.
You wanna
Are we on with the G-Punkt? Is that coming up now?
I think we can just take a little look in some of your preparations. Like it's a selection you helped us doing.
Okay. Well, yes, indeed. There's just three clips here. A lot of the instances and clips and ideas I had were exactly. It was problematic to get the confirmation from the artist. Yeah. They don't call you back. But Elias Khan. He called me back yesterday and said, go for it.
Yeah,
Sparky Mark from Demented Argo, he did the same.
Yeah.
And so it's G-Punkt Effect, who is also my Mitstreiterin in Berlin. She's a great musician and DJ and organizer. And this is her old band called G-Punkt Effect, which is G-Point Effect. They were in Rostock in 2005, it says here. Demented Argo were in Copenhagen, and we're going to see a nice interview I made together with Mark. It's nice because Mark is absolutely a diamond geezer and hilarious. And Animal Cops was a band that I was in when I went to Berlin, and it's a Russian band.
Yeah.
And it was basically songs that were written in the 80s, I guess, in Moscow. And I think most of the musicians, unfortunately, had died by the end of the 90s, but the songs remained. And there were 2 or 3 people from this collective still going, and I joined together with them. Also with Miss Vergnügen from G-Punkt Effect. She was also joining in, and we're going to see a clip, in fact, of her. We're going to see her in G-Punkt Effect,
yeah.
And we're going to see her in Animal Cops.
So I would just say let's take a look in Animal Cops, because that's the band you played.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Go for it, huh?
du nach Selbstmord und nach Alkohol? Wer ist nach Rache und nach Mord? Ich werde nie mehr warten, die werden mich nicht warten. Verdammt dich ein, du Schwein. Schön ist es nicht allein zu sein. Schön ist es nicht allein zu sein. Schön ist es nicht allein zu sein. Schön ist es nicht.
Yeah, welcome back. This was G-Punkt-Effekt from 2005 in Rostock. Also
True.
Short,
To the point.
but intense.
Intense. Annika Hansen, Miss Vergnügen, also known as Señor Depresivo, where she becomes a he,
Yeah,
like in the song,
yeah,
and wearing a mustache and a top hat, and singing very, very melancholic and depressing songs on the piano. It's very nice. Everybody's crying and sad, but there's a kind of joy through sadness,
Yeah.
I guess, you know?
yeah.
And this is what she's doing also. A very talented woman, and I'm very happy to help present her and
Yeah.
her wonderful work
Yeah.
here in Hamburg.
What do you think, like, especially today, we use Medienarchiv a lot, or we do it in every show we do, and ever since we are able to, we record every concert. In a greater sense, what do you think is worth doing cultural program, doing music, and try to make room and a place for music to bring it to people?
I think I'm too much involved inside the experiment to be able to make a clear statement about that.
About in the experiment Stubnitz, or in the experiment
Just being in this
general?
creative swamp of like subculture. I guess I kind of identified, at least until before Corona,
Yeah.
identified myself as coming or being part of some kind of subcultural mass or thing, and which subculture also means like no money, but it also means you collectivize, you share resources, and you swap skills, and you learn. If you work in this context, you can manage to create big projects, things
Yeah.
that you would never be able to do alone. Which I mentioned the Mutoid Waste Company, and the founder of that, or one of the main engines of that, Joe Rush, he said something quite interesting along the same lines, which I've just stolen actually and rephrased, which was like, I didn't want to be in a collective, but I wanted to do big stuff, and so I had to you know, ask around and ask friends and everything, and indeed with the Stubnitz, this is a kind of, although it's not a strict kind of collective, it's a ship's crew.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're at sea, there's no horizontal, there's no democratic decision about which way to go. It's a very strict hierarchy,
Yeah.
which is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you're going to probably die. So that's quite interesting. This kind of, although it's kind of, there are elements of that from, I remember from my squatting days, and all working together and trying to help each other and get stuff done. And this is also happening here, but it's same but different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of squatting, you squatted in London before you came to Stubnitz. How did you know that Stubnitz was in Rostock? And you told your story, and it sounds like you went from London to Rostock to Stubnitz like a direct way. How did that happen?
I mean, we were all having a great time in London. It was I was hanging with these. We had our sound system. We were squatting every week and making free parties and doing ecstasy like everybody else at that time. And I was hanging with the Stay Up Forever Liberator DJs and people. For example, there was one guy, Jake Black, who's one of the singers for Alabama 3. He was in our team as well. It was a very, very interesting, crazy mix, which you can only find in London, maybe New York as well, perhaps, something like that. So we were having a great time, and then the criminal justice bill came along, which effectively banned squatting in private houses. There was a big demonstration. There was regulations against repetitive beats, and it was looking a bit dodgy for us. So quite a few. Then that's what preempted me and the people from South London, LS Diesel, to all move over there, over to Rostock back in the day, like a fresh start. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, they just went directly there and
Went direct.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all completely begeistert, really impressed by this ship. For us, it was just like, wow, that's fucking amazing. So it was a playground, and it was very empty, and we were used to being in cold and empty places, so that was okay for us.
Yeah.
So we just improvised and made our parties exactly like we did in some dirty warehouse in Hackney. Did the same formula. Caught some of the local DJs to bring the kids.
Yeah.
Of correct age, of course, not talking about children. And very successful, I think, in the beginning, and a nice mix of different kinds of people as well. It's a provincial town, so you can't just cater or provide for one particular audience. You have to cater for many. So, you know, if you get a cassette, we were still getting cassettes there from demos or a CD or something. There's no internet at the very beginning. Then if it was country music, then it was a good country music. So then you have to learn what is good country music. So these kind of processes were all happening, and it's like, oh yeah, this is really nice. New country, which was a big thing in the middle 90s, I guess.
Country music in Rostock?
No, just a world thing. It was had a kind of renaissance, and it was quite sort of sharp people making really good lyrics, but just twangy and classic country, you know. So, for example, country or a reggae or whatever. So you have to go through all the styles, and you want to get the best acts and players from the different genres. And then what you discover after this process, that it doesn't really matter if it's a reggae band or a funk band or a oi band or whatever. There's a kind of a rule, like maybe 10% of each of these genres. These musicians are all really good, and they could interchange in these bands quite easily. Yeah. So you start to recognize musicianship, and trying to pick out the cherries, of course, and not just. And then, of course, sometimes it's a local band night, and then you have a different criteria because it's more about a social thing. Yeah.
Talking about social thing and staying in Rostock in the 90s, there was the Cockroach Club thing you were involved with, and you mentioned it in your story. Want to tell a little bit more about that? Sounds quite like a little bit of social work as well, not only making arts and music.
How social was Cockroach Club? I think it was. On some level, looking back. At the time, it just felt like just sort of decadent fun, like always. But I just because we had this mix, so we were all foreigners here on the ship in Rostock, which had this backstory, which was still shadowing over the city about Lichtenhagen and this mob attacking a block of flats with some migrants. And people from all over Germany were going there, and there was a big media circus around it. So anybody talked about Rostock, well, there was no internet then, but anybody talking about Rostock, they always thought about this Lichtenhagen story. Yeah. You know, the rise of the Fourth Reich in Rostock. And it was quite sort of painful, embarrassing, not embarrassing, but painful for a lot of people, of course. And we arrived, and we had no baggage like that. We knew nothing about that. We didn't really, not say we didn't care, but it was like, yeah, it's behind, and here we are now. Let's go on. And we didn't have any security, and so people from the different groups around could come to the nights and would not be selected due to their politics or their, he's a hooligan, he's gay, she's this, whatever. And indeed, there were some very, very nice nights where I remember looking at the dance floor, and you would get the corner which was from the Rattentat e.V., which was like lesbian, gay, etc. And then you would get the other corner which was full of hooligan bad boys, and then you would get the other corner with the students. And they would all, when it gets full, then they're all just mixing together. And And for the most part, it went on quite well. Everybody just getting on, you know, with each other. So in this sense, it was quite social and a little bit revolutionary, because that was really not in the conscience, and you could not do that.
It's bringing tolerance.
Only a bunch of foreigners would be allowed to do that. Anybody else would not be allowed to do it because of they are from there, and their connections, and their peers would not let them do that. For us, it was just like we're just having a party, and I think it was quite. I mean, and then it ran its course, and then it started to be just boys with attitude, and then it got a bit. Not so nice. Yeah. And this was the time when the people from the UK, they left, just as much because the place in Rostock is very small. They came from a big city, so they wanted the next thing. But for me, I was sufficiently impressed. I just recognized that I could learn so much here, and just improve myself on some level.
It's like you mentioned in your story, and I have the feeling that's quite true, that in nearly every port, one guy or one person stays longer than expected. So you came with 8 people and then you stayed. Yeah. So that's the way. I also heard that London was quite a clusterfuck going there.
It's a clusterfuck, but you don't want to. I mean, at the time you go, oh fuck, we don't want to. This is just bad, and you're under stress, and it's annoying, and But actually, with the benefit of looking back, you're really glad you made it. And what we facilitated there, I managed to get, my old mates, the Liberators, the Stay Up Forever guys. They did a party there, so it was wonderful to come back with a ship and have the gang on the ship, so it was a personal nice thing for me.
You were on board entering the port, or?
They?
No, you. When you.
I was, I have my, ich bin ein deutscher Seemann.
Yeah. You have the papers,
I got the paperwork to prove it, I'm not really a seaman, but I make up the numbers, and I can pull in a rope just as good as any man.
Yep, coming back to London and the clusterfuck situation, like there was the Olympics. And there was this block festival, which sounds out of a distance. I wasn't there. I didn't know Stubnitz at that time, but it sounds quite impressive, and there's lots of going and positive, and but it was difficult.
It was. I mean, clusterfuck is a good description. There was a catalogue of disasters, and the block festival to which we were invited. And we, of course, when we travel with the ship, we get. Here in Germany, we have the cheap beer, so we are taking the cheap beer to the other countries and selling it at quite a nice price, still a little bit less than everybody else in the place you're visiting. So this is kind of a very good income and very necessary, unless you've got extra funding, which we never had. We would always only get enough for the gas to get there, the benzene. I think it was like 25,000 euro just for the diesel to get there. It's huge sort of logistic. So we were expecting to do this big bar turnover, and the block festival to which we were invited in the East End, we were there, it started, people were like 10 deep at the bar, and it was going, this is going great, and the DJs and the live sets were playing, and the other areas and tents around, and we're like, we made it, guys. And then after like 6 hours, it just got stopped because the gate got overrun by too many people. I was speaking to Carl last night. There were a few reasons why that happened, but one of the funniest reasons is the guys decided to book this guy. Maybe you heard of him. He's a rapper from America. He's called Snoop Doggy Dogg. So they'd organized this festival with it was kind of chin-scratching music. Experimental, dubstep was very cool at the time, and kind of like a niche music, and they'd sold out. So the business had already been done for them. And I just had this vision of them. I don't know if this is true. I had this vision of them, like just a few days before the opening, somebody saying, hey, Snoop Doggy Dogg's in town. We've got an extra 10 grand. Let's just give him that and get him on the stage. And the guys, what a great idea. And of course, then it changing from this niche concert for a few some it's very nice, nodding, chin scratching, intelligent dance music fans. It changed from that to where half of London wanted to come, but it was already sold out. So it was just like massive chaos. And the security put up their hands and called the police. And then after this 8 hours or 6 hours of being open, we were there, we were stuck, and we didn't have the gas to get home. So then we really had to improvise, and we went to, I think, maybe 3 or 4 different places. One of them being Canary Wharf, which lasted about a week or something, in front of those huge towers that you see in all the films.
Yeah.
And it was like totally posh with our East German fishing ship there.
A little bit rotten.
No, it was looking quite slick actually, and we've got some very nice pictures of it. Looks like some kind of Philip K. Dick scenario.
Yeah.
Really crazy place to be, but of course, the people in those people, they're not interested in us at all. Anyway, that was one place, and the other place was next to the city where we were moving around the city airport, 2 or 3 places, being pushed around all the time. What can we do with these Germans now they're here, like this? And then became a problem for that area. And being next to the city airport was quite nice because it was kind of on the side, and the sound was dissipated. So when especially the British Airways with the big Rolls-Royce jets engines landed, sounded like a noise concert. And as I explained, I was by this time a noise freak.
Yeah.
So we would go, oh, it's the British Airways, the Rolls-Royce, they're landing. And we would jump out and onto the deck and just sit and watch the plane going, taking off or landing and clapping. And that was kind of a funny memoir.
Yeah.
And that was the area, St. George's Wharf or something. And it was kind of mostly like Asian or African, or people with migrant background, the whole area. But there was one pub in the middle which had Union Jacks and the St. George's Cross all over. And big guys with no hair stood outside in the summer. And it was just such a bizarre, this little island, it was just such that was one bizarre experience of that area, really strange area, the East End. And you really recognize it's still very much a gangster area and controlling it. And you just got this feeling that they were just taking the piss out of us. And so we were at this next place. We made a deal with the people who were in charge of the area. And they said, yeah, you can be here, etc., etc. And then after a few days later, they said, no, we changed our mind. You have to go somewhere else. And of course, to move a ship in this area, you need tugboats. You're a dead ship. You can't turn the engine on because half the crew were anyway back in Germany by this time.
Yeah, the engine guys. And
so it's like you're pulling a dead ship around, and it's just massive expenses again. It's just totally like bucketfuls of money, which we didn't have. So we said, well, you said we could stay here. We had an agreement. And they said, no, well, we decided against it now. Go away. Anyway, we're off. And they went for the weekend. They changed the code number on the gate. And we were like, oh, God, we got a program set up and everything. What are we going to do? And then we talked to the security guy. And he knew the new number, of course. And he was quite sympathetic. And he said, oh, the owners, they weren't the owners, but the people who were in charge of running it. Yeah. He said, they will be away for a few days and they won't be back. It's just me. I tell you the number. So we managed to do these events. Ha, 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 ha. And he said, okay, what's the number? And the number was 1945.
They changed it to 1945.
They changed it to 1945.
For you German suckers.
You German suckers. Yeah. The in-joke was, in fact, at least half the crew we'd found in the UK. Yeah. And then another quarter were anyway from somewhere, wherever. I mean, there weren't that many Germans on the ship, even though we had the German flag, of course.
You have to, yeah.
But, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, nice story.
1945, we'll show them. But we had the last laugh.
Yeah, I hope so. Or, I don't know. Demented ago, you told you lived with one of them in your sporting times?
Hackney days. Oh, actually Tottenham, but it's next to Hackney, and it's kind of one area, which was heavily squatted. And yeah, Mark, we were all in this house, and we had a studio making. We had this kind of like industrial gabba techno band with performance dancers.
What was the name of it?
Distortion Abortion. Yeah. We wouldn't use that name again these days, but at the time, on drugs, you just think,
Yeah, you think that's a thing, yeah.
It was somehow fitting for what we did. And it was this kind of, like fluoro, and because we had Demented Mark in the band as well, we were all wearing blood, and it was kind of like a horror show performance with like loads of us and silly dancers with bullet holes in their heads, and we put on a kind of a show. Yeah. And did that with Demented Mark. And so it was kind of like a factory. It was a big Victorian house, and in the basement we made like parties every weekend. Did the live show at some nice clubs like Knowledge, which was a really important industrial techno location in London back in the day, with Colin Dale and Colin Favor. And we did that. Mark, wonderful guy, what a talent. We're going to see him now. He did burn the house down twice. Or not burn it down, but he set fire to the house twice. And I'm still here to tell the tale, so that's good.
Yeah, that's nice. So let's have a look for Demented Mark. It's you did it, and there's also
Sparky Mark, otherwise known as Spark Retard.
Spark Retard it's also nice. Yeah. And you did some interview stuff for that video too. So we see
my teeth were a lot. Were new then, so my pronunciation and was a lot better. But yeah.
Okay. So have a look for Demented to Go.
Help in the storm for all you motherfucking white trash out there, you bastards.
Members come and go, so much they can take of the madness and stuff, and bleach drinking and injected LSD and stuff. At the moment, we got Stan the Man on lead guitar, and we got Grisho from an amazing German band, Heartbreak Engines, who's filling in, and my cousin Ant the Horse on drums.
This one goes out to my fucking cousin, who's probably the best drummer in the fucking world, and I'll fight anybody here who says any different.
And me, Sparkle Tard.
My weary bleed, fighting the traps into the blood red rain, thinking I kiss him. Case of the whistle, yeah. One shot knife, for
I started in a band, Nervous Breakdown, when I was 14, drumming, and they kicked me out, so I wasn't that good at drumming. And I started drumming for my own band, the Rockabilly Rejects, and we didn't have a front man. So my cousin, he was in a band in a little town up in Wales called the Epileptic Herd of Kangaroos, and we sort of joined forces. In Jordan, our rhythm guitarist at the time, basement. His grandma's, who had dementia, his basement, and it was hilarious because we'd be trying to practice, and she'd come in every 10 minutes. Do you want a cup of tea, boy? Do you want a cup of tea? And Jordan would be going, "No, Gran, look, we're trying to practice. Fucking fuck off." And we'd be like, "Oh, you can't talk to your Gran like that. You don't have to live with her." And she'd come back in, "Do you want a cup of tea?" No. And every 10 minutes, because she'd forget. It was like we were demented, fully mad, and we were on the go. Like, it was like, yeah, we got gigs booked. Go, yeah, demented, our go, man,
Beat a spot, make them pop.
first heard the Cramps when I was about 14, which blew my mind.
It's probably one of the best bands that ever existed, or what?
Yeah, fucking the most mental rock and roll band on the planet, definitely. That's just mad rock and roll, isn't it? But we never called ourselves a psychobilly band. The psychobilly, the name was invented by Johnny Cash back in the day. Yeah, he one of his songs, I'm not sure which ones, mentions the word psychobilly, which was basically crazy motherfuckers with big quiffs going mental to rockabilly. And they were called the psychobillies. You can take it back to the swinging 20s, I reckon. It just goes back to the caveman. Yeah. Psychotic rock and roll, definitely. My great-great-great-grandfather was a henchman for the king. Yeah, he was a Fries. He used to behead people. He was an executioner. My first job was in Lipton's, and that was my best job. I loved it. It was doing the size of pig, you know, doing the chops and stuff. It was lush, great.
It's like it's an argument for genetics, I suppose, when you think that your relative was beheading people and then your other relatives were cutting up meat and things. Yeah. It's something in the blood, maybe. I don't know.
I would sing about cutting people up. Dream about cutting people up. At the moment, I live in Stoke Newington Graveyard because I got evicted a few weeks ago. So I've got beautiful tomb I sleep on, my hot rod tomb, which is shaped like a hot rod, and I've got my guest tomb. I've got my disco tomb. I've got the pole for the pole dancing. I moved in on the 6th of the 6th of the 6th. It was mental, fucking goths down there, fucking with ghetto blasters, fucking. I was just come out in the woods like, all right, there, having a good time, all zombied up, put all ashes over my eyes and my face, so I look all. Where'd you come from? I go, oh, I live down here. I live on 29 Tombstone on the left, on the far hand side. Come and visit me for a cup of tea if you want. And none of them did. None of them had the guts to. Oh no, I did bring 2 of them. They shit themselves. They thought I was going to stab them or bury them, which I was quite tempted actually. No one would know.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who I am. I don't know why you having it. Get a bubble, get a day, yeah. One call out wide. Wind up sound. Call out wide. They're coming down. They never coming down. Check out some TSD.
fairies at the bottom of the garden, shine a light, they're coming through. You just bought a dodgy car, you just bought a bodgy bike, and you can ride it where you like. In the midst of the pale moonlight, the mushroom circle glows. See them fairies prance around, see them touch their toes. Fairies at the bottom of the garden.
Yeah, Demented Are Go, Copenhagen, 2006. Nice interview, by the way. Nice cut.
Drinking my cup of tea.
Yeah.
My cup of tea.
Is it tea? Or is it coffee like it's...
It's beer in a cup.
Really?
Yeah. I'm pretending that I'm not drinking alcohol.
Again, clever move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for like the end of our little talk, how's life going in the press? And you talked about like Czentrifuga, about live screen printing and Vagabunden Congress, about the magazines you're doing. What the current projects you're into, and yeah, want to tell us something a little bit?
I've been doing this the Screen Print Collective story for many years. And at the moment, I've reduced to helping with some administration and email and blah or whatever, and stepping out on my own a bit. I thought now that I'm all grown up, I might try to do something without the power of the collective around me.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
how is it going?
It's still in its infancy, this idea.
Yeah.
So you've caught me at the good time where I'm kind of fizzing with new ideas and new directions. But I've also moved out of the city, east of Berlin, living by the lake with nature and helping a bit on the local farms and getting a bit involved in the local... we did an event last 2-3 weeks ago. Müncheberg is bunt. Müncheberg is the town near to where we are. And Müncheberg is bunt means Müncheberg is colourful.
Yeah.
And of course, the whole of Brandenburg is being overrun by the AfD, which is a sort of populist, the populist party here in Germany. And there's a kind of a coalition of people from all the political parties and from the church, and it's all very kind of like normal citizens.
Yeah.
And me as a kind of token freak in there.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it because it's not this kind of like. I don't want to bash the left too much on this show, but this kind of division, which is really rife at the moment, which just kind of find it very stifling and not too productive. And in this new scenario, I'm just I'm just me, and I can do some screen printing, and I can help and carry things around. And
you're just one of the other German citizens there, yeah?
Yeah, because I am actually a German now since last November.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I can't really speak German, even though I've lived here half my life.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm not as smart as I'm trying to portray here. Because I
you
can't
can
even
speak German. Like
I can't even speak the bloody language.
But we also decided to speak in English, that the fellows in other cities, and because we're international, you know.
I was going to speak in perfect Hochdeutsch, but he said, no. Think about your friends in the UK. They want to hear you speak in your mother tongue. Yeah. And I said, na gut. I said, na gut.
So you're out of the leftish cultural collective shit.
Yeah, I don't want to bash it, but it's in this this especially right now, with this kind of world turned upside down, Corona in the mix. Everything is just kind of, what's real and what's not real, and everything is very swimmy for everybody.
Yep, that's true.
And anybody that thinks they know what's going on, then of course they're definitely the people that don't know what's going on. Yeah. So it's just I'm just sort of like watching, like a lot of us, like all of us, just watching how this is going to pan out.
And wondering,
and that's why I think it's when you start to sort of question. If I imagine like the middle classes of Germany and Europe, like doubting what's real anymore, the whole concept of reality and their concept and everything they're doing is sort of crumbling, and they're losing money, losing their jobs and breaking down, then it's also quite interesting. It creates new possibilities. Is the Corona glass half empty or half full? For me, it's been quite an eye-opener, and coming here, I recognized that the ship, there's an expression that was used by the river inspection, who invited the Stubnitz in 92 or 94 to St. Petersburg, just before my time. And the promotion they made, the posters says, "The ship is real." The Russians, "The ship is real. I've seen it myself." And this really stuck with me, and we still use this phrase for some flyers every now and then, or for promoting this show.
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, this is really a huge, massive fucking 70-meter, 2,500 ton ship which can move with a working machine and a crew and can just move around. And it's really, really real.
Yeah.
So I think the importance of this ship, at least for me and my mental stability, it's an anchor for me. It's like, at least the ship's real, even if nothing else is.
Yeah. We talked about in the, it's not ex-Stubnitz, it's, if you once was here, you're always Stubnitz in exile. Yeah. So
It's like kind of a life sentence,
Life sentence.
Well, it's not true. Some people do not come back, but
that's
if
true.
you've done a few years on board, then it's more often than not that these people are going to keep coming back and doing, jumping in, jumping out.
So enjoy your exile, and maybe we see us in the future, because nobody knows what's going to happen. Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Coost, for your story and for your time for us today.
Yeah.
And I would say
Thank you, Stefan.
we just go for the media archive once more. We have still some real good shit left. It's Action Beat and Kid Kishore, which
Action
is
Beat,
quite...
Kid Kishore, rock. They absolutely rock, both these bands. Support them.
Have fun.
Ja. Randall Killer, der was da angeguckt war. DJ Livstrad. Musikstykket, der er kun 1 minut tilbage. Og hvor der overblandt slåen til midt meget der, John. DJ var 2012.
Hallo, Freunde zu Hause an den Geräten. Wir zeigen euch wieder ein paar neue Knoten hier. Jetzt ist der Palstek dran. Das ist ein sehr bekannter Knoten und vor allen Dingen ein sehr wichtiger Knoten. Der Palstek wird vor allem benutzt, um eine feste Schlaufe zu erhalten, die man über einen Poller legen kann. Oder aber auch, man kann eine größere Schlaufe machen, um damit Leute aus dem Wasser zu bergen. Denn mit dem Palstek ist man sicher, dass sich die Schlaufe nicht von alleine wieder zuziehen kann. Zu dem Palstek kann man sich eine ganz einfache Eselsbrücke bauen. Es gibt da einen kleinen Spruch zu. Wir haben hier das Ende unseres Taues und hier machen wir einen kleinen Teich. Mach's noch einmal vor. Ihr macht eine Schlaufe und habt hier das Ende eures Taues. Das ankommende Tau geht unter dem auslaufenden Tau entlang. Und das hier, das ist unsere Schlange. Die kommt aus dem Teich heraus, kriecht links hinter dem Baum und geht auf der anderen Seite wieder zurück in das Wasser. So, das ist der Palstek. Hier haben wir unsere feste Schlaufe, wo man ein Boot dran festmachen kann oder auch so das Tau an anderen Gegenständen befestigen kann. Wichtig ist hierbei, dass das auslaufende Tau auf der äußeren Seite rauskommt. Wenn es nämlich auf der innenliegenden Seite rauskommt, ich mache das einmal vor, kann es Gefahr laufen, wenn ihr hier einen Poller habt oder einen Mast oder was auch immer, dass es durch Bewegung, durch Seegang das Tau wieder rausschieben kann und somit löst sich der Knoten auf. Also wichtig, die Schlange kriecht immer links hinter dem Baum entlang und geht dann zurück in den Teich. Das ist der Palstek.
Jo, und da sind wir wieder. Wir kommen tatsächlich auch zum Ende unserer Moderation bzw. unserer Sendung. An meiner Seite sitzt Karl. Karl ist nämlich, hat auch gleich noch ein paar Dinge zu erzählen. Karl ist normalerweise nicht vor der Kamera, sondern hat mit allem zu tun, was hinter der Kamera ist und macht das Live-Editing und Post- und Pre-Production und hat damit alle Hände voll zu tun. Deswegen schön für euch zu sehen, das Gesicht, was normalerweise hinter den Kameras steckt. Genau, gibt noch so ein paar Sachen zu erzählen, bevor ich Karl das Wort überlasse. Schaltet ein zum nächsten Plattenfroster in 14 Tagen am 5.11. Da haben wir World Service Project zu Gast. Dann ganz kurz noch das Blurred Edges Festival läuft, ein Festival für aktuelle Musik in Hamburg. Es läuft noch bis zum 28. Oktober. Wir haben auch noch 3 Veranstaltungen, nicht hier als Livestream, sondern als tatsächliches Konzert mit wirklichen echten Gästen, die hier sitzen können und sich das angucken können. Am Sonntag ist eins, am Montag ist eins und hoffentlich klappt der Künstler oder kann der Künstler am Mittwoch aus London hier anreisen. Ist ja in diesen Zeiten alles etwas ungewiss. Genau, im November gibt es noch ein paar Jazzkonzerte. Informiert euch gerne über unsere Social-Media-Kanäle. Alles, was ihr heute hier gesehen habt, könnt ihr auch noch bei YouTube nachgucken, auch in Einzelteilen. Liked es, shared es, zeigt es euren Freunden. Wir freuen uns über Follower. Genau. Du hast noch was zu erzählen von einem Ereignis, was dich irgendwie gerade auch bewegt hat.
Ja, genau. Also ich werde das auch versuchen, auf vernünftiges Deutsch zu machen. Nicht so, wie Coost schon erzählt hat. Ich bin eine von denen, die man manchmal mitnimmt, die halt nicht aus Deutschland kommen. Also
ja, aber das
ziemlich
macht
genau ist Coost abgehauen, wenn ich zum ersten Mal mit das Schiff zu tun hatte. Vor 3 Jahre, in 2017, hatten wir ein Konzert hier geplant und, von einem japanischen Künstler. Und die sollte vom Bahnhof abgeholt werden. Und einer von uns ist dann irgendwann schon mal hingefahren, konnte ihn nirgendwo finden. Ich bin dann nochmal hin und das ganze Bahnhof abgesucht, das ganze Gleis von vorne bis hinten und nirgendwo und versucht ihn anzurufen. Und das hat alles, glaube ich, eine Stunde gedauert, bis ich dann irgendwann gemerkt habe, ich gucke mal noch ein bisschen weiter, wo die ganze, was ist das, Escalator? Fahrstühle und so nicht mehr da sind. Und da stand tatsächlich komplett am Ende irgendwo hinter eine Säule und hat dann immer mal wieder auf sein Handy geguckt und so. Und das war Toshinori Kondo.
Okay.
Und jetzt, diese Woche kam der Nachricht, dass er am 17. gestorben ist.
Oh, ja.
Und das hat mir tatsächlich ein bisschen geschockt. Und ja, Stefan hat einen schönen Text geschrieben mit ein bisschen Kurzfassung von, was er alles so gemacht hat.
Ja.
Und den würde ich mal gerne vorlesen und dann können wir danach auch
dann haben wir noch
ein Video von ihm sehen,
ja.
Also was an dem Abend auch passiert ist. Und damit es dann halt auch nicht zu schwer endet, folgt dann auch noch ein Ausschnitt von Kuhei Matsunaga mit Scotch Egg, manchmal auch unter dem Namen Scotch Bonnet.
Okay.
Auch beide aus Japan. Und
ja.
Damit sind wir dann, glaube ich.
Damit sind wir dann am Ende. Ja, dann.
Dann mache ich jetzt mal Vorlese.
Genau.
Runde. Also, Toshinori Kondo, der japanische Free Jazz Trompeter, bekannt für seine Improvisationen und elektronische Experimenten, ist, wie ich schon meinte, leider gestorben. Er wurde 71 Jahre alt und in den späten 1970er Jahren zog Kondo von Japan nach New York City, wo er sich mit Musikern von der Downtown-Szene wie Bill Laswell, John Zorn, Henny Kaiser, Eugene Chadbourne verbündete. In den späteren Jahren 70 erschien er mit diesem Künstler auf mehreren Alben, auch auf dem Klassikeralbum von Herbie Hancock, also Future Rock. Und er arbeitete auch mit Ruichi Sakamoto zusammen und war Mitglied von Praxis. Seit 1992 gehörte er zu dem Die Like a Dog Quartett von Peter Brützmann und später auch zu dessen Chicago Tentet. Weitere Kooperationen und Plattenaufnahmen mit jungen Musikern wie DJ Crush, United Future Organization, der deutschen Jazzkantine und dem polnischen Gitarristen Barton Rage folgten. Außerdem organisierte Kondo in Hiroshima das große Friedensfestival für den Dalai Lama. Bemerkenswert ist auch sein kontemplatives Projekt Blow the Earth, für welches er sich mit Trompete und kleinem elektronischen Equipment in abgelegenen Gebieten unserer Erdballs begab und dort mit den ihn umgebenden Natursounds kommunizierte. Dabei entstand eine Musik, die nicht darauf ausgerichtet ist, durch Konfrontation zu polarisieren, sondern eine Möglichkeit anbietet, den Fokus auf unsere Welt zu hinterfragen. In den letzten Jahren leitete er sein eigenes produktives Label namens Toshinori Kondo Recordings und noch dieses Jahr im August veröffentlichte er eine 5-bändige Pandemic Response Record-Serie mit dem Titel Beyond Corona. Erhältlich bei Bandcamp und eine absolute Empfehlung unsererseits. Also ja, Toshinori war am 2.3.2017 bei uns zu Gast und hier kommt dann ein Ausschnitt aus seinem Konzert. Rest in Peace, Kondo-san.